ever since the engine rebuild, I've had a high rate of breaking down. Every time I go out, I basically have to mess around with the points to get it going again. Now, the bike originally was just build it up out of parts that I have, and it was very quickly grown to a lot of deliveries of new parts. So I have got slightly carried away with this, but I'm just trying to get it to go. It's built of, well, points anyway, it's built of at least 3 engines. Not all of them are RD, so I finally give up on the idea of trying to get that to work. And I've got myself an electronic ignition system, so again a big splash out for the RD. Now, I went for the Vape system. It is not the cheapest on the market, but it was recommended by a few sources, and I've also spoken to a company who can hopefully provide a tunable version. So hopefully in the future I have plans for modifying the bike, but need to get it going properly first. So I guess we'll just get started. It does come with instructions, so if we get lost anywhere, there is actually it does come with a very good laid of instructions. But we'll set that up there for now. I don't know how well it's going to work, but it does look fancy. If you are looking into installing the electronic ignition, this is just a few systems that I looked at before buying this one. This is the Vape system installed at the moment, and it's really the road version. It includes the charging system to allow you to use lights and so forth. There is the racing version, and that really doesn't have a charging system, but it does state a higher RPM. In fact, it states up to 22,000 RPM. Another great option seems to be this horsepower ignition. Now, I did check it out and buying this, and it doesn't state the RD200 specifically on the website, although I did get in contact and they were very helpful. I recommend this system. An RD200 has a timing curve, so I checked it out just in case there was issues with that. But I tried to order the programmable originally. It's a wee bit cheaper than the Vape system, so it might have been a viable option. Unfortunately, they don't do the programmable CDI system anymore for 2 cylinders. So that was the ultimate decision, really. I went for the Vape system. Celltronic is another website I got in contact with, and again are very helpful. Now, unfortunately, they don't specifically do electronic ignition for the RD, but they do or will provide a programmable CDI. So if I'm looking to program the bike in the future, I'll get back in contact with these guys. If you're looking into this, you'll see also these options for what they claim is electronic ignition, but it does keep the points. So I was having a problem with the points, and that's what I wanted to get rid of. It's a good start whenever the bolts they give you aren't long enough. Just put the other things on loosely to see. Does it actually fit? Well, that works, but I don't know how to get the bolts on behind it. So we're depth to where it's meant to be, and the actual depth before it even reaches. And pretty sure I read in here somewhere you have to use the right bolts. So don't use any other screws. I've made it on the second page, and I might have to go rogue already, because I don't see any way that's going to work. So when I was rebuilding the engine, I bought a whole lot of M6 screws. This does state, hit the screen, you probably not pick it up, 8.8. So it's not anything particularly strong. I wasn't worried about this part, this is the mechanical part. I was worried about the electrical part. And that's way too low, so if I can turn that. So I know that this states not to use any other screws, but I can't work out how else to do it. I might be doing something completely wrong, but I guess we'll find out in due course. I will also say that the ones I'm using are 10.8, no not 10.9, my bad. So hopefully the strength will make up for the extra length. The heads are also the same size, same head, so somewhat confident in that. Sorry Vape, but I think the next thing is to get top dead center back on the magnet. Basically we need to get top dead center and then replace the rotor arm so that it fits with the lines. So there's a line here, probably not get it on the screen, and then probably shouldn't be doing it this way, but there's a line there. So need to get top dead center and then make those lines line up. Minus 3 mil or whatever the RD one was. I'll look it up. So it's 1.81 is the standard RD. So we'll go with split the difference nearly and go with 2 mil. I'm going to end up having to take the tank off, aren't I? As well look when the spark plugs out. Yeah, I'll have this bit out because you can't see it. Sorry. So need to reset the rotor. Without doing that, start again. So instructions actually state that you put the rotor on so that you can turn the rotor itself on the crank, but from what I've just done, it's very easy to move the crank after you've done that, trying to get it off again. So I usually just do use the back wheel anyway to turn the engine over. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll put it back on in line with the marking which is here, which you can't see because I've just moved the camera. Okay, basically you can't do anything I'm doing, but it's basically stick the burner in the top of the cylinder, turn the wheel around the top dead centre, which is tricky, then turn the wheel backwards so that you get before top dead centre, but you go past the, well I'm going to set it for 2 mil, so I'm going to go past that, and then I'm going to turn the wheel back around forward again, just so that everything in the engine is tight and on the correct stroke, just to take any sort of play out of burns or whatever. So you're setting it to the upstroke before top dead centre, which again is quite tricky. So once you got that set, back on the rotor. Only this time I need to get it lined up with this nick, and with this nick lined up with, back down. So we have a nick here, I need to line up with this one. That's now on. I'll tighten it in a bit, but before I do that, just want to check. So I'll just do the same process again with top dead centre. Move back and then see if our line lines up. I don't actually know how many times I've done this to this bike, I've lost count, which is maybe an argument for a reason why you shouldn't do what I do, because I haven't got it working properly yet. Hopefully that'll all change with the new ignition system. I don't know if it's the magnets in the ignition system, but it is making it extra tricky. Every time I get to where I think top dead centre is, that it jumps. Yeah, so from checking that, pretty sure that's dead on. Put the spark plug in before, well, one, the instructions tell you to, and secondly before dropping in the cylinder. I think from there is just tighten it up and move on to electrics. The next stage is actually taking the coil, well, I'm going to say taking the coils off because we're putting the new coil on, and we've got a new regulator as well. So new coil with 2 outputs and new regulator. Now, it sets this off by 180 degrees, which means it'll fire one side and the other side is used as an earth while that one's firing. I didn't know that until I read the instructions. So okay, now I'm going to reposition the camera because you're not going to see any of this otherwise. I don't know why I'm using this spanner. Question is where to put this. I'm going to do this separately, but I might take a regulator out. See if we can combine them two. We're too far away anyway. The H2 leads. That was my isolator. The plugs are completely different, which is the most likely reason why they give me a plug to go with it. I need to adapt an adapted wiring harness, or change it to an RD wiring harness. Adapt that. I'm going to adapt the adapted wiring harness. So if I printed out the actual wiring diagram. So I'm just going to take a method of taking all the wires I don't need out of the equation and going from there. After quite a bit of time going through electrical diagrams, it's really down to a couple of wires that are causing me confusion anyway. Now everything's basically plugs into itself in the system, apart from the red wire, what's the black wire out of the relay, and the red-green wire that comes out of the new, where to put it, regulator, and so this one, and it plugs into what I'm going to say, it says charge control, but that's the bulb, so I'm guessing that's the charge light. This is the ignition lock, which I presume is the key ignition, and then this is the red wire coming down and into the fuse before it goes into the battery. So start off with the red wire, which is the red wire from the ignition system, follows up, and then I've got the fuse to the battery, or what will be the battery, and then the red wire is coming out of the new regulator. So I think that's right. It's an important one, but it's the best I can work out on the wiring diagrams. The next one is the red-green wire. Now this comes out of the regulator here and it plugs into this plug, but where does the red-green wire go? So drop the instructions. The red-green wire goes into the charge control light, and when you read this one it says red-green wire is for the charge control light. So when you go to the RD wiring diagram, it's actually the white wire. When you follow it across here, it goes to white, which is the charge lamp. So I'm going to say that the red-green wire goes into the white wire in the Yamaha, because we're doing a European modern system here onto an old Japanese wiring diagram. So red-green goes to white, but then we have the black wire, which is SW, which comes down to this relay. So this black wire here, which is at the moment just a dead end. So it does seem to give a choice whether you use this relay or not. I might as well put it in until it changes mind. But it's showing us going on to this wire here. Now that's the charge control light, and that's the red wire coming from the battery. If this is the ignition key, then it's the wire between the ignition key and the light, which I'm going to go back and say, so there's the white wire coming out of the key, coming down here into the charge light, and doubling back through here and into what was the old regulator in the Yamaha. So I'm going to say that we need to put the black wire onto the white wire, which is then connected to the green red wire. I'm going to try it. and we're either going to work, or if you're watching this and know what you're doing, are probably preempting me wrecking my wiring harness again. But it's the best I can come up with in this, and I can't see any other way. I've went through it a few times, and yeah, I just keep on coming back to the same conclusion. So we'll get started here. I've started with the red wire, got that connected on, with the white wire taken off here. Now the old plug, wherever it went to, for the regulator, we've got on here is the green wire, which went down to the old charging system, so that's redundant. The white wire, which is the charge light, but it actually teed off, so this is the one that goes up to the key, and then this one went down to the charger, so that white wire is now redundant. I'd cut that off down here, so that's now redundant. The black wire is an interesting one, because on the bike this is negative and goes to the battery. On the diagram we've got the brown wire is shown everywhere as earth. Blue and white is now redundant because that's a starter motor, so we don't have a starter anymore. So I think what we're going to have to do is, brown, sorry, is going to lights, but it did connect onto the spark plugs, and the coils was a brown wire. So I need to work that. I'll explain. I'll try and work that out and explain it later if I can. So brown was to the spark plugs, black's to the neutral, white charge lamp, green's redundant, blue's redundant, and black's neutral. Whereas now I've got brown as ground, black seems to be going to white, and green, red comes into the mixture somewhere too. So I'll cut all these wires, get them all connected up, go back over it again, see if it works, and probably find it's wrong, and it's somewhat entertaining. So I'm back over everything again, and I think I've got something set up. I've been brave enough to put the battery in, so I just went over it, and I'll just show the setup as well. Now it all does need tidied up, it all sitting in place, but that's the cable coming out of the regulator. What I have on this end, so the white cable, that's the charge connected onto the black wire that goes to the relay. Red line goes into the battery through the fuse via this connection, which is, yes, insulated, taped up at the moment, and then everything else is really just as the diagram. Brown wire I've taken round to the earth on the battery, and taking all the other cables up into the coil, which is cable tied on for now. Red cable, blue cable, and the earth is on this side. I've plugged the ST leads into spark plugs a way around. It doesn't say how to work this out, so I'll just guess for now. If it doesn't work, I'll just try swapping them over. So fitting the ST leads, Vape does supply an ST lead with the kit and says not to use the original ones. It was twice the length, so I've cut it in half just because of twin cylinder, but they've only supplied one boot with it. Now it also says to put it on before you put the coil on. I've kind of passed that stage, so I'll see if I can get it on with the coil in place. But yeah, I don't know what to do with the other side. I'll probably just have to look out for one, and or see if I can get one somewhere. But we'll run without one for now on one side. But yeah, I think we'll turn the key and see either if we've got success or a varying degree of failure. If you notice, I didn't put the washers on the back of the bolt, so I've done that now down at the system, and I'll put the clutch cover back on again. with the blue cable disconnected, which is essentially the relay kill switch for the electronic ignition, the bike has been running. So we're back over the diagrams again, and I had originally put this black wire, which is the feed wire, into the relay onto what I think is the charge light. Now, pretty sure this means it's meant to be onto a live feed whenever the key's on. So what I'm going to do is swap the white cable out and just put it straight into the plug, and then I'm going to take the brown wire, which it used to actually go to the coil, so I have started stripping out the wiring from the bike. They need the start wire to take out, and then that will be the old regulator plug taken off the bike completely. But I'm going to plug the black wire that goes into the relay into the brown cable, because that actually gives a live feed at any point the ignition's turned off. Let me just do a demonstration. So with the ignition turned off, you're not getting any reading off the voltmeter, and no matter what, so with the ignition on, I am getting a reading of 12 volts. So going to change this wire over, which is the feed wire, into the relay, and hope that whenever the key's on, it then feeds the relay the electric it needs to tell the kill wire that not to stop the ignition system from working. So one amendment from what I'd originally plugged the bike up to, and hopefully it means that the bike will actually run on the key rather than just with the kill wire disconnected. Now, it also means that if you want to steal the bike, you need to unplug the blue wire, and no matter where you have the key, the bike works. You'll not have lights, but yeah, you could just ride off on the bike by just pulling that wire out. So I'm going to change that so that you can't just steal the bike, but I might leave that bit out. And then there was really nothing else to do but go for a spin.